In today's episode, I'll be talking a bit more about femininity. There's a lot of masculinity in women today. And so if a woman is showing up too masculine, I do not believe she should blame it on the hyper femininity of her man. Many of you have chosen your man on the basis of his potential. Oh, he has a lot of potential. And when that potential is not coming to the fore in the time frame that you would like it to, you start to feel a bit intimidating, and you're watching your biological clock, and you're like, boy, many of the expectations you may have of him that you think should just be common sense are probably not common to him. Now what we have is a lot of men competing against women to be men, and the competition is stiff. And for those of us men who are quote-unquote high quality, we can see that there's not enough of us to go around. Sometimes we feel as if, as Nigel boy said, you have to share me. The more I think about it, is the more I realize how important it is for a woman to really maintain her feminine stance in the relationship. Yo, welcome back to another episode of the worst relationship advice ever. You definitely should not listen to me, because be rubbish me at all. Just a talk after my head, right? I'm not really sure if any of this makes sense to you. If it does, you can take it to heart. If it does not make sense, then you can just discard it, do away with it. It's totally fine by me. Last episode, we started to talk about, masculinity and femininity. And I would have spent a bit more time talking about masculinity in the last episode. I was talking about how, the masculine man shows up as a leader, as someone who is stoic and has complete control of his emotions and doesn't allow the explosiveness of his wife's outbursts or arguments to cause him to fall off center. Right? But he holds the line, he stands firm, he communicates his boundaries and does not allow his woman to kind of tilt him off center. Yeah, and I would have learned that over the past year, I would say, because I can say that me personally, I've always tended to be the person in my relationships that seeks to keep the peace, all because I don't want to argue. However, I have been very argumentative, usually because I'm being defensive. I'm always defending myself, But I've learned from the books that I've been reading that emotions don't need to be explained, they don't need to be defended, they just are. They should be communicated but not argued about. And I tell you, when I read that in Hold On to Your Nuts by Sir Levine, it's like, wow, I never knew that before. But we live and we learn. In today's episode, I'll be talking a bit more about femininity, zoning more in on femininity and what that looks like. And we understand femininity to be aligned with women, with females. And I've been a lot more intentional about looking out for feminine and masculine traits within women. And I can say that there's a lot of masculinity in women today. Yeah, it's because as they're having to survive, women are having to survive, fend for themselves, not only against other women, but also against men who mean them no good. It's hard for women to decipher between men who have pure and good intentions toward them and men who don't. There are men who may even present as having good and pure intentions in the beginning, but then in the long run, it turns out that they had a transactional thing in mind where, I give you money and resources and you give me sex in return. But as I've said in season 1, love is only unconditional. And so when men or women present and give things in order to get in return, that is transactional and that is not really love. That is more of a business and that is more of a masculine trait. femininity is abundant giving and abundant receiving. It is said that the woman is an incubator. So whatever she receives, she multiplies it and gives it back in abundance. However, I do believe that each person in relationship should take responsibility for who they are and how they show up in their relationship. And so if a woman is showing up too masculine, I do not believe she should blame it on the hyper femininity of her man. No, I believe she should take responsibility for how masculine she's showing up. In the same way, if a man is not showing up masculine enough, he should have blamed it on the fact that his woman is not submitting to him or not respecting him. No, she needs to take responsibility for how he is showing up in the relationship. I believe if every person takes responsibility for who they are and how they show up in the relationship, things can go a lot smoother. Conflict will be resolved a lot better because now there's no room for the blame game. Last year I would have counseled a couple, big up to Felicia and Darren if you're watching this. And that's one of the things I left with them in our very last counseling session, that both of them should take responsibility for their relationship. If it is to be, it is up to me. Yes, as if the relationship is not going the way you want it to go, then possibly it is your fault. Even if the voices in your head are telling you to cast the blame on the other person, no, point the finger at yourself. So when it comes on to femininity in relationship, I have observed that women have the tendency to point the finger at their men and say, oh, I am not submissive and I am not soft and I am not showing up the way I really want to show up because you are not mad enough. You are not masculine enough. You are not providing proper leadership. And oftentimes men are there like, I'm doing my best to provide this masculine leadership, but you are not submitting. And so it becomes a situation of what came first, the chicken or the egg? Who should go first? The man or the woman? And I've always said both. That's one of my favorite words. Both. Both should love each other unconditionally. Both should have unwavering commitment. Both should seek to foster intimacy between them. Both should be each other's friends. Both. And so to you, my women who are watching this right now, I encourage you to do your best to preserve your own femininity. Show up as soft and submissive to your partner. Is it daunting? Is it intimidating? Yes. Many of you have chosen your man on the basis of his potential. Oh, he has a lot of potential. And when that potential is not coming to the fore in the time frame that you would like it to, you start to feel a bit intimidating, and you're watching your biological clock, and you're like, boy, if I don't take charge of this situation, then not going to happen. So I need to start putting some pressure on this man. I need to start pushing this man in the direction that I want him to go. I need to start opening doors for him. However, this may just backfire, as you will now start to feel more like a mother to him. And the more you start to feel like a mother to your partner, is the more you lose your sexual desire for him, which he absolutely needs. He needs to feel desired by you. And so what's interesting to me is that women can be the very source of their own pain. As they emasculate their men, they become less attracted to their men, and the less attracted they become to their men is the less the sex flows in the relationship. And the less the sex flows in the relationship, if the man is not masculine enough to manage that, he's likely to pout, to become angry, to become sad, to become irritable in the relationship, which will have a negative effect on the woman, and you can end up with this cycle of doom and gloom, and eventually it may just end in the man ending up in an affair, or the woman ending up in an affair as well. Yeah? And so the more I think about it, is the more I realize how important it is for a woman to really maintain her feminine stance in the relationship. Because if in the absence of his masculinity, she now decides to become more masculine out of necessity, it's only gonna be bad. There's nothing good that's gonna come of that, especially if the man wants to be masculine but feels as if his woman isn't allowing him to be. And so women, be soft, be gentle, speak in a quiet tone to your man. Make more requests than you make demands. Understand that he cannot read your mind. And many of the expectations you may have of him that you think should just be common sense are probably not common to him. And so you guys will have to build your relationship from scratch and work things out little by little. Especially if your man didn't grow up in a two-parent household where he had his father to observe, and he had both his parents to observe the dynamic between them and how they manage the masculine and feminine poles. He has no clue. He simply does not know. And just because he doesn't know doesn't mean he is less deserving of your love, of your grace, of your understanding, of your sexual energy and desire. It's absolutely necessary, and he still needs it, even if he is not showing up in the way that you want him to show up. If you remain feminine, you allow him the space to become more and more masculine, because the masculine energy is necessary, it is needed. And if that space is there, only he can fill it appropriately. Yes? So, I encourage you, my dear ladies, I know you've grown up in this society where you've been told that who run the world? Girls. And women are better than men, and women can do whatever men can do, and women should run the place. And right now we see in the working environments where women are the ones who are leading the companies, and women outnumber men in not only the colleges but in the corporate spaces. Yeah. When I walk into my office, I see more women than I see men, working and doing their best to provide for themselves and their families. But really, it should be more men there working the long hours and making the sacrifices to provide for their family. But that's just not how we were trained. And so now what we have is a lot of men competing against women to be men. And the competition is stiff. There's only so much jobs out there and no more. And so with women dominating the workspaces and earning more income than men, it's becoming more and more difficult for men to be men. And the women are suffering, and the women are complaining, and the women are saying, where are all the good men?
Oh my God, where are all the men?
And for those of us men who are quote unquote high quality, we can see that there's not enough of us to go around. Sometimes we feel as if, as Nigel Boy said, you have to share me. But hey, I'm not encouraging that, this is a Christian podcast. I am a Christian, and so I do encourage monogamy. And so no matter how high value a man becomes, I believe we should all humble ourselves and be content with just one wife and one husband. But yeah, ladies, it is tough to be a man. Women just are. Men must become. Eggs are expensive. Sperm is cheap. And so for us to present ourselves as worthy candidates for marriage, there's a lot of hoops that we have to go through, a lot of stress that we have to endure. And it's okay. It's okay. Because if we really think critically about it, you women have a lot to deal with as well. Not only in this world where you have to survive and be wary of men who are trying to take advantage of you, trying to rape and abuse you, but you have to bear children, which is the most important responsibility on the face of the planet. There's just nothing more magical or more important. And you should receive the support that you need as a mother to bring up your children in the fear of the Lord and for them to become intelligent and productive citizens of our society. And we men, oftentimes we have not stepped up. And it's a cycle, you know. If the men are not there in the home to provide the leadership and to teach us how to be men, then we end up learning about masculinity later in life. And the later in life we learn about it is the more difficult our marriages will be, especially if we're getting married in our 20s, you know. I'm just now learning about, you know, masculinity and what it really ought to look like. And I'm 32, you know. But yes, I agree that femininity should be preserved by the men in your life and by you too, women. Do your very best to let all that masculine energy out when you're at work, when you're having to perform, when you're having to meet the targets and do whatever you need to do to keep your jobs. But when it comes on to your relationship, you have to switch. You have to code switch. You have to switch off the masculinity and become as soft and as feminine as possible. Speak to your man with gentleness and kindness. And hug him, kiss him, touch him, love on him as much as possible. You know, flirt with him, look at him with those luscious eyes and with those nice lips and all the curves and all that you bring to the table. Bring your femininity. Do not let it go. Do not let it be diminished by the harshness of this world. But you never know. If you show up feminine enough, your man may just be super motivated to show up as masculine as you need him to be. Yeah? But if you're showing up masculine and he's kind of, you know, put off by that, and you're finding that you're having a hard time maintaining your relationships long term, please take a step back, look yourself in the mirror, and wonder why. Is it that all the men are just simply not good enough? Or is it that you are showing up in such a manner that you're kind of scaring men away or pushing men away, you're kind of intimidating them? And yes, we can argue that if a woman intimidates a man, then maybe he's just not man enough, he's just not masculine enough. And we do have that issue in today's world. However, I don't believe a woman in her true femininity should be showing up masculine at all in a relationship with a man. Yeah? So yes, femininity is associated with softness, emotions, and you know, it is believed that women are more emotionally intelligent than men, but that seems not to be the case, because it is the masculine that controls emotions. It is the masculine that responds opposed to react. It is the feminine that is rather erratic and that may come off a bit aggressive and be the one to, you know, insinuate and speculate and start arguments over seemingly nothing. But where you have that balance in masculinity and femininity, trust me, the natural order of things allows the relationship to run a lot smoother. Yeah? So I encourage you men to be men, be strong, be firm, lead your families as best as possible. And women, don't give your man a hard time. I do get it. Some of us, we have big dreams and big visions, and we don't necessarily know how we're gonna get it done. But we have a conviction about it. Believe your man's conviction and submit to his conviction. And help him navigate the waters. Help him find the route to getting to that dream that would make life so much better for you and him and the children that you bring into the world. Yeah? Blessings to you and your family. Thank you so much for joining me yet again for another episode of the worst relationship advice ever. I'm just here sharing my opinion. I hope it was insightful. I hope it gave you something to think about, something to consider. Yeah? Blessings to you and your family. Please stay safe. I'll see you again next time.